Hey everyone, it's Erin with Hail Varsity, and I am joined by Greg Smith, also of Hail Varsity. I was debating saying your last name, so that was the hesitation, but um, you are like Prince, one single name. It's Greg. Greg, how are you?
I'm doing better after that. If we start to approach that level with just Greg, then yeah, that
It's
that
just
will be
Greg.
very good for me. Yeah.
Well, spring ball has come and gone. We are officially into, I guess, summer, but not really. But there's a lot of excitement. In the next month, it seems that the NCAA's mandated dead period is going to be lifted on June 1st. We know that. Um, there will be camps, official visits. Things are going to be moving and recruiting for the first time in a long time. How are you feeling?
Anxious. I am hoping that I am prepared. I'm sure it will go better than I'm anticipating, but there are going to be a lot of things that happen, especially once June hits. But I feel like even this kind of lull before that, because there's just going to be so many things that are still needed to be settled. Like, for example, you mentioned camps. Nebraska's camp schedule outside of what they're hosting is not set yet. So we don't know where they're going for some of those satellite camps or mega camps or anything like that. And talking to recruits this weekend, that's all part of the puzzle of trying to figure out official visits as well. Like it's going to be nuts, but in a good way, in a welcome change.
That also means people are starting to get really curious about different position groups and what it will mean. I think a lot of people were looking at the spring game weekend as like, are there going to be commitments and everything? But just also remember, if you're somebody who was like, why weren't there any commitments? This wasn't an official visit weekend of any kind. People paid for their own tickets. They were there, but they also paid for their own tickets. So don't be too alarmed. But that also means there's a lot to look forward to. And Black Shirt Nation on Twitter wants to know who Nebraska has a shot at working in the trenches. He thought the defensive line in particular is a need for this next class. Greg, what's your take?
I was kind of surprised that he felt that defensive line was a need for this class, which is, I guess, where I will start with this. I would say, no offense, that I disagree.
It's okay.
With
We're
that,
allowed to agree and disagree.
yeah, but there's a reason for that. If you think about it, there are a lot of young, still like with potential defensive linemen that have eligibility or lots of eligibility on this team. I'll start with the biggest example quickly. Ty Robinson is the biggest example of this, who is now a bona fide starter and a guy that we think maybe could take a leap into being close to an all Big Ten level player this year. He still has 4 full years of eligibility left because of the eligibility freeze last year. So if you go down the line, I believe that Ben Stilley is the only defensive lineman in the rotation that should like leave the team after this year. I think everyone else has at least the opportunity to come back next year, and in most cases, multiple years. That's even before you then get to the defensive linemen that they've recruited here recently. So you think back to Masai Newsom and his class, Nash Hutmacher a couple of classes ago. Ruquan Buckley, who came in early this past year. You still have Jalen Weaver to join the team here in a few weeks. Like, there are a lot of defensive linemen that have a lot of eligibility that people still really like, right? So when you take, because these things work together, when you take that, you have to also then say, because of that, Nebraska does not actually have to need a lot of defensive linemen in this class. So I think that they're narrowing it down, and there are a few names. There was one on campus, or two on campus, actually, I should say, sorry, this weekend for these very unofficial visit for the spring game. Jalen Marshall out of Overland Park, Kansas, who's a defensive lineman who can play all three positions on the line like Nebraska wants. Same as Chris McClellan, who's out of Oklahoma. He also can play, has some position flexibility. They were both in town over the weekend. And then you have a host of other guys, too, that they're looking at. I think this class, they probably won't take more than 3 defensive linemen. I would say probably 2. And they will probably both be guys that have some real flexibility and they're not just stuck into one position or the other.
I was going to say, when your phone rang, it was somebody calling to disagree. I'm just kidding.
It was a recruit calling, and then I would have had to have gotten off here.
Yeah, no, I will say with the defensive line, what makes that group really interesting, if you want to know more just about what our thoughts are, we actually published our projected depth chart, which depth charts are always really difficult to project after a spring, but this is especially difficult because there's so much we haven't seen, so much unknown, but there is a lot of depth there. So, Greg, if it's not defensive line, what's the position group, in your opinion, that Nebraska will be focusing on? Maybe let's stay on defense. What is the position group on defense that they might be focused on more when it comes to recruiting this class?
Yeah, I think that it's the answer that it always kind of is, or where it always starts, and that's outside linebacker. I think that Nebraska will continue to try to hammer home on that position. Unfortunately, a guy that they really like, Popeye Williams, over the weekend committed to Louisville, so they're going to have to kind of recalibrate. And I think that he was a Nebraska lean before that turned very quickly, and so they'll have to kind of get that going again. But it's a unique situation in that Nebraska's defense has such a good mixture of veteran players that they currently like and young guys that have played some, to where like there aren't huge holes on the defense, right? Like it's just kind of that's a good thing. And so that what that ends up happening or producing is that you're just going after the best talent you could possibly get, and then you'll figure it out later. Now, of course, you've got to then see the guys that they have now perform and do it to the level we think they can on the field. But I think Nebraska's defense overall is in really good shape when it comes to that. But you'll always want to continue adding pieces, specifically at outside linebacker.
Well, if you want to know more about this topic, you can come back to Hail Varsity this evening, 6 p.m. Central, for the recruiting notebook. Words are difficult today. Presented by Pinnacle Bank. So we appreciate Pinnacle Bank's sponsorship of the recruiting notebook. That goes live Sunday through Thursday, 6 p.m. Central. So you might as well just bookmark that now, put it on your calendar, check it out every single day. But if you want to know more about this particular topic, Greg will have more on it this evening. So go check it out. And if you want to leave a comment, a question, whatever, we love that. You can do so in the comments below in this video on YouTube. Wherever you're watching, you can send tweets to Greg at GregSmithHV, comment on Facebook, whatever is easiest for you. And we will be back next week with another recruiting question of the week. So get those questions in now, because you don't have to wait till Sunday or Monday to ask. You could ask today and just get ahead of the curve on this, and we'll be back to answer those questions next week. Greg, any final words before we let you go to continue taking phone calls from those recruits?
No, keep it locked on HailVarsity.com. I'll have more on this later. Looking forward to kind of diving deeper into this.
Well, we appreciate your knowledge. Again, follow him at GregSmithHV. You can also follow us at Hail Varsity. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Yeah, we'll be back. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you.